Bruchim haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Kuf Tez Vav Amud Aleph, starting with Daf Kuf Yud Dalid Amud Beis, 6 lines from the bottom. Our Mishnah brings a case where a person only has chazeres for his karpas. Chazeres is, of course, chasa, lettuce, and therefore that's what's used for moror. So he only has moror. Says the Mishnah, he should go ahead and use the chazeres for his karpas as well, and then bring for the second tibul the chazeres again for the moror. Says the Gemara Pshita, heicha diika shar yerokois mevarich ashar yerokois by pri adama v'ochil v'hoda mevarich al achilas moror v'ochil. In a normal case, when you have other vegetables for your karpas, so of course you make a bracha bari pri ha'adama on the karpas. One should keep in mind also that it will include for the bracha of bari pri adama for the moror. Then when he gets to the moror, after the matzah, he'll make a bracha al achilas moror. So that's pashut, that's the straightforward case. But what happens over here when you have the chazeres that you're using for your karpas? Ask the Gemara, heicha deleke elachasa mai. But if you only have your chazeres, your chasa, so what is the din? What do you do about the brachos? Omar Ravuna said, mevarech mi'ikaro amor boi pri adamo v'ochil. Ulevesoy mevarech aleh al achilas mor v'ochil. He says also when it comes to mor, you shall make the bracha of boi pri adamo in the place of karpas. Then when you get to the mor after the matzah, you'll make al achilas mor. In other words, the same way that when you have shar yerokos, you would make the bracha boi pri adamo only then karpas, and you would make al achilas mor when you get to the mor after the matzah. So too, when you use your chazeres for your karpas, you do the same thing. That's the shita of Rav Huna. On top of Kuf Tez Vav Amud Aleph, says the Gemara Maskif lo Rav Chizda. Rav Chizda asks on Rav Huna, and he says, you Rav Huna are learning that it's because a person holds that mitzvah srichos kavana, and therefore when a person then ate the mor, he did not have in mind, he ate the karpas, he did not have in mind to fulfill the mitzvah of moror, whereby he only therefore makes the bracha of al achilas moror after the matzah. Asks Rav Chizda that it's independent of whether you hold that mitzvah srichos kavana or not. La'acha shemile kreiso heimeno choizer mevarech alel. After a person fills himself up with moror at the time of karpas, he's only going to later go ahead and then make a bracha of al achilas moror. That doesn't make sense. Asks Rav Chizda on Rav Huna, either way, it's independent whether you hold mitzvahs are tzrichas kavana or einan tzrichas kavana. If mitzvahs einan tzrichas kavana, whereby you would fulfill your mitzvah the time when you ate the moror b'shas the karpas. So therefore, certainly you should not make the bracha of al achilas moror only afterwards. And if you hold mitzvah srichos kavana, that you have to have kavana when you're going to fulfill the mitzvah of the moror, and you didn't have the kavana in the time of the eating of the moror b'shas the karpas, that also would be incorrect because you already filled up your stomach with moror. So therefore, it's not going to make sense to go ahead and make a bracha on the achilas moror when you go ahead and eat moror again. Elam Rav Chizda, therefore Rav Chizda says that's not what you do. Rather, what should you do in the situation when you only have chazeres for your karpas? Mikara mevarech alel borei pri ha'adama v'al achilas mor v'ochil. When you eat the karpas, which is your chazeres, you make two brachos. You first make a bracha borei pri ha'adama, and then you make the bracha al achilas moror. Then for the tibul sheni after the matzah, you'll eat the moror again, but this time without a bracha. The Gemara says, "Besura avdei k'Rav Huna." In Surah, they were noyeg like Rav Huna. Rav Sheshes bereid Rav Yoshua avid k'Rav Chizda, and Rav Sheshes he was noyeg like Rav Chizda. So we have a machlokes. Which one do we follow? Do we follow the opinion of Rav Huna that says that the same way that you do why shar yerokos, you'll do over here when you only have chazeres, namely you'll make bori priha adama b'shas karpas, and you'll make al achilas moror when you eat the moror after the matzah. Whereas Rav Chizda argues, and Rav Chizda says no, that in this case, since you're eating the chazeres b'shas the karpas, you make both brachas then, and when you eat the moror, the chazeres after the matzah, then you just eat it without any bracha. So we have a machloikis how to then follow. Again, in Surah they follow like Rav Huna, the first opinion, but Rav Sheishes, Bered Rav Yeshua, follows like Rav Chizda, the latter opinion. The Hilchas Kavasi Rav Chizda, and indeed the halacha is like Rav Chizda. The Gemara concludes that when you have such a situation of chazeres, using your chazeres for your karpas, then you make both brachos at the shas of the karpas. Rav Acha B'Rove Mehader Asher Yirokois La'apuke Nafshe Miplukta. Here the Gemara tells that Rav Acha B'Rove, he went out of his way to find Shar Yirokois, even though the halacha is like Rav Chizda, that indeed, if you are in a situation that you have chazeres, you can make a bracha, both brachos in the beginning, b'shas the karpas. But Rav Acha B'Rove, he went out of his way to find other types of yerokas they can use for karpas, as not to enter this machlokes between Rav Chizda and Rav Huna. Says the Gemara weiter, Amar Ravino, Amar Lei Rav Mesharshia Bereid Rav Nosen. Hachi Amar Hillel Mishmei the Gemara. Here, Hillel over here is referring to Hillel the Amora, not to be confused with Hillel HaZoken, as we shall soon see his opinion. Al Kopanim, Hillel the Amora said in the name of the Gemara, that means the name of the tradition of the Talmud, Loi nichroich inish matzo mor bahadi hadodi v'nechel. A person should not wrap the matzah and the mor together and eat them like a sandwich, because mishum desviu lon matzah bizman hazeh de araisa umor de rabbanon. Because bizmanenu, we don't have a Beis HaMikdash, the matzah remains de araisa, as it says in the Torah, be'erev toichlu matzos. But the Mara is only Dirabonim, because the Mara, when there's not eating the Mara together with the Korban Pesach, does not have the requirement Diraisa. It's only Dirabonim Bizmanenu. V'osi Mara B'Dirabonim u'mevatel leila matzah Diraisa. And since matzah is Diraisa and Mara is Dirabonim Bizmanenu, if you would wrap them together and eat them like a sandwich, then the Mara that's Dirabonim, that tam of the Mara, would then affect the tam of the matzah. And since the tam of the matzah is the araisa, therefore we want it to be a tam that's alone, that's levad, whereby you can't eat them together. That's what Hillel the Amora teaches us. The Gemara goes on to say, even the opinion that says, we don't say that mitzvahs are mevatel one another, but over here it would be different. Hanimid deraisa b'deraisa, derabban derabonon. Aval deraisa v'derabonon, when is that true, that he says that the mitzvahs are not mevatel zu et zu? That's when they're the same darga, when you have a deraisa and another deraisa, or derabon another derabonon. But over here, the mor, which is derabonon, compared to deraisa, is really like a reshus, and therefore it would mevatel the deraisa. The Gemara says, "Man tanish maitzilei." Who is this Tana that says that mitzvahs are not mevatel zu et zu? Says the Gemara, Hillel he. This is Hillel HaZoken. This is the Tana Hillel. He says that mitzvahs are not mevatel zu et zu. Again, a deraisa and a deraisa will not mevatel one another. The Tana, for it states in the Brisa, mitzvahs a mevatel zu et zu. Sorry, the Tanya, Amru alav al Hillel, shahayu korchim bebas achas va'oichlin. It reports that Hillel, at the time of the Beis HaMikdash, he would be korech bebas achas and oichlin. He would say, he would be accustomed to wrap together, and he would eat them. Shneimar says, al matzas umarorim yoichluhu. As it states in the Torah, that on matzahs and morim, they would eat it. And he understands that means eat it would be going on together. The matzahs and the mor together. So he would wrap them together, and you see that he would say the Pesach, the matzah and the mor, these are three mitzvahs deraisa. They are not mevatel zu et zu. As you can see, they can be wrapped together and eaten. Rabbi Yochanan said, Cholkin alav chaver al Hillel. You should know, Rabbi Yochanan says, they have a Mesara, that the Chachamim were choylek on Beis Hillel. On Hillel HaZaken, rather. The Tanya, for it states in the Brisa, I might think that one can then wrap them together, the Pesach Matzah Morah, and eat them as one sandwich, as Hillel HaZaken did. Talmud Loima, the Brisa goes on to say, Al Matzah Sumorim Yoichluhu. The pasuk that was brought before, they learned differently. Al Matzah Sumorim Yoichlu, Afilu Zebifnei Atzm Vezebifnei Atzmu. That means to say, since it already mentioned the Korban Pesach, when it says Al Matzah Umorim Yochlu, Yochlu refers to it, the Korban Pesach itself, that itself has to be eaten separately. So therefore, you see that they have to be eaten separately, not like Hillel HaZaken ate them together. Maskif lo Rav Ashi. Rav Ashi argues, and he says you can't learn a raya from this brisa, although it might be true that the Chachamim are choylek on Hillel, but not from this brisa. What would the afilu mean? Afilu means normally to say that it can even be eaten alone, but they can be eaten together too. Elo Rav Ashi, but rather, therefore, Rav Ashi says, Hai Tana Hochiktani. This Tana, this is what he taught. Yochel, I might think lo yotza behu yidei chavasa ilim ken korchim bebas achas v'ochin yeder shel hilo hoichlon. The only way to mekayim your chiyuv of Korban Pesach is to eat them together with the matzah and the moror, as Hillel did, as one sandwich. Talmud loymar al matzahs umorim yoichluhu. Therefore, the pasuk says on matzah and morim yoichluhu, teaching me what? Afilu zebfnei atzm v'zebfnei atzmu, that you can eat even lechatchila, says the Chachamim, them separately. You could also eat like Hillel, but you can eat them also separately, not like Hillel. Whereas Hillel would say that only b'di'evet, if you eat them separately, are you yotzei. The Gemara now says, Hashta deloy itmar hilchas elo ki Hillel ki Rabbanon. Now that we don't have the halacha, not like either Hillel or the Rabbanon, mevarech al achilas matzah v'ochil. What should you do? You first make a bracha on the matzah and you eat it, and you make al achilas matzah. Then you make a bracha on the moror, al achilas moror, and you eat the moror separately. And then, to satisfy Hillel, you eat them both together.